Well, hello there, BoomerTime and Nancy Cogar, your host. I'm glad to be here and I'm glad you're here. Today we are going to be talking about some of the greatest fears of older adults in 2026 and more practically, what keeps older adults awake at night? What are they worried about? Well, we're going to talk about that. And I also hope to give you some perspective on that and maybe change your mindset a little bit, because the biggest issue is something that actually you can do something about. So I think this is going to be a good episode. So, the question is whether you or someone you love wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? It's happened to me before. So no one is immune. You wake up, maybe you're thinking about, I'm thinking about a case, I'm thinking about a client, maybe you're thinking about money, right? What am I going to do if I can't afford the care that comes with aging? That's a legitimate fear. It's expensive. What if you lose independence? What if all of a sudden you have to rely on someone else for your daily activities? Healthcare. It's a big one. What if the cost of care wipes out everything you worked for over your life? Happens sometimes. And memory. I know there's a lot of people out there that, what if my memory starts to slip and I don't realize it? That's tied to independence. Even family disputes. What if you don't agree with your children? What if your children don't agree with you? What if they don't agree on what should happen related to your care? These aren't fantasies. These are real fears. They're real, right? And I can tell you that these kind of fears and people are coming into my office almost every single week. So if you're out there and you feel these things, then know that you're not alone. Okay, this is legitimate, and that is why I wanted to spend some time in this episode talking about it. So I'm talking to retirees, right, who did everything right. They saved diligently, they paid off their house, they raised their family, and at the later time of their life, now they're asking, do I have enough? Will it be enough? Can I stay in control? Can I stay in my house? Is my house, is the layout, does it offer the ability for me to stay here long term? What happens to my spouse? What happens to me if something happens to my spouse? What's going to happen to my family? So aging it's not just about getting older. Okay, it's about navigating all these issues. Rising care costs, longer lifespans, people are living longer, mental breakdown, cognitive risk, right? Blended families, bringing two sets of assets, problems, and families together at the table. See that a lot too. And all the while looking at things from the national and international standpoint, right? All this stuff that's going on, it can make even the most calm person stressed out. So changing government policies when it comes to aging policies is a lot. It's a lot. So we're going to talk honestly about what's the commonality there and what's keeping seniors up at night. And more importantly, what can you do now to reduce those fears before it turns into crisis? Because that's the real piece here that I want to communicate. You can be afraid, but don't let it paralyze you. You can do something before the crisis comes, right? Because the truth is, you can have control over your fear of losing control. Fear grows in silence, okay? Planning creates clarity, and clarity, with that planning, it'll create peace, I promise you. So let's get into it. I'm going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll talk more about this. Welcome back to Boomer Time. Hey, I want to remind you, if you are new to the podcast, I'm glad you're here, but please like and subscribe. hit that little ringer bell, because then you will find out about upcoming episodes. And it'll help me too, because I have more people listening, more people watching, and that's going to help me reach more people. So please take a little time and do that. I would sure appreciate it. Also got a Facebook page. I've got Instagram. I've got LinkedIn. You can get connected to me in those ways. And I am constantly sharing news that doesn't necessarily meet the headlines for the 50-something crowd, and taking a deeper dive on some of those stories, right? Along with resources. So we are talking today, to get back to our topic today, fear, right? What keeps older adults awake at night? And it's no great surprise, right? Money, care, living long time, being sick, disputes with family. Heck, I know why you're worried about some of those things, right? They're serious. So, it's funny because we all have things going on in our minds, things we're concerned about. How many times have have you said, "How are you today?" And fine, fine, right? Maybe you're not fine. I want to talk about that today. So if you've got those thoughts occupying space in your brain about not being able to manage your money, wanting to figure out how to manage your money better, right? What happens if you can't drive? What happens if you can't make decisions and someone else needs to step in? You know, Loss of control is oftentimes a part of life, but it's not a weakness. It's really a normal risk of longevity. So that's why I want to shift your mindset today to say that planning, yes, the big P, estate planning, and I can help you with that, is not a surrender. It is not a waste of time. It is a smart move, and it's leadership on your part. Doing something to guide the future, guide your family, offer some parameters, make some plan, and I guarantee you, if you start doing that, the fear will dissipate. It will. So the biggest fear, I mentioned a lot of things, but the biggest fear really is losing control, right? And how you keep that control moving forward. Well, we're used to our routines and everything, but I don't think control is about doing everything yourself, right? We probably think of it that way. But more so, it's about deciding who steps in, who do you trust, how do they step in, and what happens if you can't do those things. So losing independence, fear of losing independence and control it's one of the most common concerns when it comes to aging. It's right up there with dying. So I would think losing control has more options than the other, right? But those are just things that come with life. So I want to talk about how many people are involved with the fear of losing control. And it may surprise you. So really, 2/3 of adults worry about losing independence as they age. And it may be different aspects of independence, but, have you ever worried about being able to stay in your house, be able to buy groceries, be able to buy your prescriptions, make that work, get to your doctor's office? That's all part of the independence that you're used to in your life, right? So 63%, that's 2/3, right, of people report moderate or strong concerns about losing their independence later in life. And that independence, it ironically matters more than longevity. So 78% of adults age 65 plus said they'd rather have independence than living longer if it meant depending on somebody else. That's pretty sobering, isn't it? Well, I want to meet you in the middle and tell you that you can maintain your quality of life. You're going to have to change some things, but you need to take action now, because if you do start losing independence or need extra help, you will have the plan in place that gives your family or your friends or whoever it is, your spouse, the authority to do those things that you want them to do and not do the things you don't want them to do. These are people that are supposed to serve in your stead. Okay. So, what does all this mean in plain terms? Okay. Well, obviously, there's a pattern. Most people worry about losing independence, and it's legitimate. Money is a real factor, right? And for many seniors, independence matters more than living a long time, you know? And that really speaks to quality of life, I think, Control over daily life, where to live, who makes the decisions for you, how your finances are handled. Can you access your money? Can you pay your bills? Can you drive? Right? Those are all central to independence. Not only that, there's so many targets and dangers these days with scams and fraud and medical decisions, and no one wants to get a bad diagnosis, right? You got to take some time and think about these things, okay? Because it will provide some clarity. And I'm here to tell you that loss of control is not something that you just wake up in the morning and all of a sudden you have no more control. 9 times out of 10, that's not what happens. It's gradual. Okay. You start to see things slipping. You start to notice you're forgetting things. You're not getting done the things that you normally, found easy or just kind of reflexive, right? It does not happen overnight. It happens gradually. So what does that mean? It means that you really do have some control. You have control by planning. Okay. So fear of losing control and not planning, you know what that's going to do? It's only going to make the fear more real and relevant to your life, because if you don't have a plan in place, then you really should be fearful because you haven't given anybody the authority or made any decisions about what you want. That can, those kind of risks can include, court-controlled decisions of your life with conservatorships or guardianships. Those are expensive. The court has control of decision-making for you in a protective way, but it makes things very hard. So, and that includes public proceedings with lawyers, expenses, and delays. It also comes with family conflict. I've seen families blow up over conservatorships. It's a big deal. So those are power struggles between children, second marriage tension, guessing about what you want or don't want. Wouldn't that be the worst if you can make decisions about what you want and don't want and you don't do anything about it? Well, you might want to think about that. You have the opportunity to do it. So I am here to tell you today, and it could cause some fear, that if you don't decide and if you don't plan, you may be leaving that up to a court to decide for you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Take a step. Take care of these things. And I'm not talking to just one of you out there. Nearly 60% of people who are fearful, right? 63%. 60% of you, probably in the same boat, haven't done anything to plan. So I think I'm probably talking to the same people. These concerns are understandable. People are living longer. Used to be 60, 70 was old. Now people are living to be 80, 90 and up. So you live longer, you're going to have the likelihood of a health event or possible decline or temporary incapacity. So even a short hospitalization or illness can make it difficult to manage bills, communicate with your doctors, handle just your everyday responsibilities. And that's a case where you would need someone else to help you. So the good news is that losing control is not inevitable. If you plan and you have the choice to plan, you can remain in charge of how the decisions are made and what decisions are made, even when you are no longer able to make them yourself. So the choice is yours. I'm going to be back in just a sec with some practical steps to help control the fear of losing control. Be back right after this. Welcome back, BoomerTime family. I know I'm being a little bit rough on you today, but it's only because I care. I'm doing this podcast because I care, right? I want you to know how important some of these things that you may not realize or not even know about are. So you can take control of a potential fear of losing control. It's ironic, isn't it? But that really is the truth. So I wanted to share also when it comes to the podcast that please, like I said, please like and follow the podcast if you can. And then you won't miss any episodes. You'll know what I'm talking about this week. And I know I've mentioned this a couple times, but I am really excited. I have a book coming out and it is close to being available. I've been working like a squirrel trying to get this thing done. I don't know what that means, but I know squirrels always look really busy. The book's coming out, BoomerTime Blueprint, and you can reserve a copy, or I will also let you know when you can buy one, subscribe. It's going to be soon, next couple of weeks. So I think that book is going to be really worthwhile for you. It talks about a lot of these things. So let me know what you think. Okay, so finishing up on our topic, there are some practical steps you can take to avoid and relieve a sense of fear, even create a peace of mind. So here's what I'm talking about. Here's a scenario that I experienced that, what is Nancy talking about? Choosing people, having people in place if I need somebody. Well, let's say, okay, I've got somebody in mind and they were real stubborn about making an investment in estate planning. They didn't have a will. They didn't have a healthcare power of attorney. They had an advanced healthcare directive. That's end of life stuff. But otherwise, MIA. They didn't have anything. So nothing. They also lived at home and were stubborn about making some improvements to help them in the house, kept that shag carpet in there, and would not put bars on the walls and things to help them maneuver. Well, they fell down and broke their hip. So they went to the emergency room and they had surgery, and that is not a good surgery when you're older. I'll just say that off the bat. But they had the surgery, and it was serious surgery. So now what? Well, that person is most likely going to spend some time in skilled care or nursing home care. And if you don't have powers of attorney in place, if you don't have a plan when it comes to your long-term planning, if you don't have someone who can access your money and your funds and knows what you want, you are going to make that much more complicated than it needs to be. And it is going to put enormous stress on whoever it is that, ends up making or trying to make those decisions for you. Things are not as easy as they were back in the day. I don't have to tell you that, but it's true. We've got privacy guidelines, HIPAA privacy, we've got scams, lawsuits, all kinds of stuff going on. So it is not like you can walk in a door and start making decisions for somebody when it comes to their health care or their finances. A bank is not going to allow you to even have access to the bank account. They won't even tell you what's in there. So I hope that rings home, but that's just an example of what I'm talking about. So if you've got the ability to make some really practical steps, these are not hard, people. And this is really the initial kind of action that you need to take to change this. Get some peace of mind. Right? If that many people are worried about this, then do something. That just makes sense, doesn't it? So if you take some practical steps, like choose trusted decision makers. Don't just do everything yourself. Legal documents will allow you to authorize a person you trust to act on your behalf if you cannot. Okay? You can also include people you don't want making those decisions for you. And I know that oftentimes there is somebody on the list. So you got to take the action and you got to put it in writing and an enforceable document. Okay. This is complex stuff. Okay. You can also organize important information, make a list of accounts, insurance policies, key contacts, medical contacts, prescriptions. This can make an enormous difference if somebody needs to step in quickly. And those things change all the time, right? So you need to keep it updated and review it, right? That's just common sense, but life circumstances change. You got death certificates for people, keep them in a place where people will be able to locate those. Certified death certificates, marriage license, healthcare changes, long-term care policies, DD-214s. All of this stuff needs to be somewhere where someone can find it quickly and reflect on your wishes. Here's a hard one, but talk with your family. You would not believe how many people have never even had one conversation with their kids about what might happen to them at some point and what they would want in those circumstances. I don't know if it's avoidance, being uncomfortable, just trying to push it somewhere else. You don't have to think about it. It's too stressful. You need to have open conversations about both expectations and responsibilities, because that will allow you to maintain some boundaries, ensure that the things that you want are followed, and reduce misunderstandings. There are misunderstandings. Trust me. I've had family members come here. One set is arguing. The other set is arguing. And neither one of them can get anything done for the person who is at issue. Don't do that. It's just a big waste of everybody's time. And it doesn't work. Okay? So control through preparation. Planning ahead doesn't mean that you're expecting the worst. It just means that you're reflecting on a commitment to protect your independence, your dignity, and your family from unnecessary confusion, stress, and conflict. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So when these decisions are made in advance, the future will be much less certain. And, I've talked about the type of documents that you need, but you need to have a professional do those. I'm talking powers of attorney for finances, healthcare, end of life directives, HIPAA authorities, maybe some trusts, and got to stay up on that stuff. So control is not about ego, okay? It's not. So for those of you that, feel like Grandpa is stubborn and he's never going to make a decision about anything. That's not it. It's really about protecting your dignity. And they need to be, comforted about that and insured. And it will protect your dignity and it'll protect your family's peace. So have these conversations early, all right? Have them early. You will be glad that you did. And you can come see me and I can help you get that plan in place. If you're not here in Tennessee, go find a professional estate planning attorney. One who practices elder law would be even better, and ask some of these questions. You need specific plans, okay? So losing control is always a possibility, but chaos, that's optional, okay? I choose clarity. I would have you choose peace. I would have you choose who speaks for you. You don't want the person that you don't trust speaking for you. I wouldn't. So the goal isn't to control everything forever, right? Hold on to it so tight that even if something happens, you're going to withstand it and not have to change anything. That's just impossible, okay? I want you to control your plan for when those things happen. And they probably will. So aging is not a loss of strength, okay? It's a shift in how strength looks. And one of the strongest decisions you can ever make is putting a clear plan in place before a crisis ever begins. You may never need anybody to step in. Maybe you'll be blessed and live to be 100 and on your own and not need anything. Maybe you won't, right? Maybe you may stay sharp, independent, and fully capable, but you still need a plan, even if something's going to happen gradually. Your loved ones need to know what you want done and when to do it. So that kind of clarity protects your dignity. It protects your family, and it protects your legacy. Anytime you don't plan, you're going to spend more money than you could have if you planned, right? Because it's an emergency. So if it's been a few years since you've reviewed your documents and you're not really sure who has authority or what you gave them the authority to do, that's a problem too. Or if you just don't have anything in place, take some time to make an appointment and plan, okay? Because losing control is not inevitable chaos. So with the right planning, it can simply be a smooth transition handled exactly how you wanted it to be. So thanks for listening to me, and I hope this has helped. I hope you change your perspective when it comes to that. Lots of people do. It's okay if you're late in the game. Let's just get it done, right? So, all righty, folks. Well, I appreciate you sticking with me, and I will see you again next time on BoomerTime.